Good afternoon, everyone. Rob Skeen here with Adrian Brookman from Oasis Skeen. And
hello,
what
Rob.
we're going to be... G'day, Adrian. How are you?
Good, mate.
Just a little bit about Adrian, folks, before we get into it. And I'm going to tell you what our topic's going to be, but I thought I'd just give you a bit of background on the man himself. He commenced his real estate career in 1994 in the competitive inner city market of Sydney. As a leading agent, Adrian honed his negotiation skills as a first-class real estate professional by specialising in residential sales and auctions. Bringing a wealth of knowledge to the table, it's unlikely that you'll find a scenario Adrian hasn't not encountered throughout his real estate career. His experience ensures his clients always make the right decision in their property purchase transaction. He's been a buyer's agent for 6 years, and today he's sharing some of his insights on what the property market is doing at the moment and his tips and advice on how to secure a property in 2022. G'day, Adrian.
Thanks, Rob, for the introduction. I don't think I could have written that better myself.
Mate, I hope I'm not giving away too much, mate, with your age there through all that experience that you've had. You look good.
You know, experience is a good thing, isn't it?
It is. It is. You look great, mate, by the way.
Thanks, mate. So do you, Rob. So do you.
Thank you.
For
thank
a 65-year-old, yeah.
I'm doing well, right?
You are, mate. You are.
Mate, so look, how's the market compared today to, say, 6 months ago? And I know that you're always at the coalface as an auctioneer, out there every weekend. You're calling numerous auctions. So really, I can't think of anybody else who'd be better at this to explain this than you. The fact that, you know, you're a buyer's agent helping clients, investors, mums and dads buy their homes, as well as being an auctioneer on a Saturday. Mate, how does it compare? What are the strategies at the moment that are different to perhaps 6 months ago?
Yeah, no, thanks, Rob. You are right. You know, being an auctioneer, it really does put you at the coalface of what is going on in the industry, and that's usually you're getting a real sentiment of buyer mentality and vendor expectations and mentality as well. Really long before, I suppose, the media always starts commenting on what is happening out there in the real estate market. Now, when lockdown first came about, going back last June or so, there was an initial little period of about 2 or 3 weeks where everybody was just filling themselves out. And then I was turning up to these auctions, and the stock started to dry up, as you know, and I was turning up to these auctions, and I'd walk into the agency and doing online auctions and having 25, 30, 35 registrations. I'm thinking, what is going on here? And then I'm auctioning these properties that are going, you know, $400,000-$500,000 above reserves, but they were reserves based on results that were, you know, achieved in January and February, which are already beating records that had been set just in November and December. So it's not as if those reserves were low reserves. So at that point, you know, any clients that I had on board, I was thankful enough, actually. I just bought for a bunch of clients just leading up to in those weeks prior to that lockdown occurring last year. So I was pretty lucky in that sense. But any other clients I was talking to at the time, we actually said, and we had that discussion as well, listen, things are going a bit crazy at the moment, and it did turn out to be right, that it really ended up being a false economy with some of those results that were being achieved. And it's lucky that we did give some of our clients, you know, a lot of our clients that sort of advice. So just to settle down a bit, there's hardly any stock out there. There's a lot of buyers that were playing games that didn't buy for whatever reason, and now suddenly got this real fear of missing out. And hence why some of these property results were going at $400,000 and $500,000 and $600,000 above reserve based at that time. So it was very, very hard to be able to secure a property at what was deemed to be a fair and reasonable market value when it's been shown that then those prices that were being achieved, you know, 6 months ago, it's come off a little bit, and now we are in a more measured market now.
Yes, it seemed like to me too last year there was people, you know, not travelling, they were saving up their money. There was the fear of missing out, the fact that interest rates were really low, the lack of stock was probably a really big factor, the supply and demand. It was crazy. I mean, great as an auctioneer, right? And I remember going to a few auctions.
You know, when you were just, you know, when the online auctions really was just all online auctions for the best part of about 4 or 5 months. And there's again that, you know, we were thankful enough, we did a few online auctions the previous year, and people were a little bit more used to it, where it started off the year before, it was still very much a grey area and people weren't quite used to it. But now everybody zooming from home and working from home, they just seemed to be the norm, and there was a lot of comfort out there in the marketplace from the buyers to be able to actually bid online auction. And then because there was such a lack of stock, instead of having 10 or 15 to choose from in a suburb, there was only 2 or 3 to choose from, and there was a pent-up demand from the marketplace in relation to the buyers, hence why there were some of these results. And as an auctioneer, it is always usually the true reflection of market value in an auction, but I tell you what, there were plenty of auctions I did through that period last year where I scratched my head and thought, well, that's just not sane. Why did that happen? That shouldn't have happened.
Well, look, that's true. And neighbours, I could see when I was attending some of these auctions, their mouths were a gap. Like the agents, I think even the agents, we're stunned. They had that look of, can't believe it. And I know a lot of buyers are really upset, and, they were complaining about underquoting and things like that. But I think genuinely there were agents there that were like, wow, we didn't expect that. That's just way over expectations.
Absolutely.
So, mate, the question is, that brings me to today. So what's happening today? What's the difference now in 2022?
Well, today I see you, and then so getting back towards the end of that lockdown and getting back to your question about being the auctioneer and on the ground on the coalface, notice towards the end of November into mid-end of November, there started to be a bit of a shift. We're coming towards the end of the lockdown, etc., getting a control on the pandemic at that time. Obviously, the cases exploded since then, but it is what it is. Notice a definite market shift and a buyer sentiment. People just seem to be buyer fatigue. Buyers started pulling back, so there were starting to be opportunities, a more measured market. The reserves were a bit high, but that obviously then came down to how you handled negotiation. So then we started to advise our clients, listen, there are opportunities now coming on. A lot more stock is coming on the market in that period of mid-November to December. So I see the market now as in going on forth from that period there. I believe it is a more measured market. I believe now we are getting back to a norm with clearance rates at 70, the adjusted clearance rate's probably about 72, 73. Reported might be a little bit higher, but adjusted clearance rates. You want to have a market like that at around 70, 72, because it's a measured market. It's the market where people can trade, upsell, downsell, buy and sell, knowing that they're not going to be either price out of the market or lose money. So I believe it's a fairly measured market. So it is definitely a good time to act, in my opinion, in that sense.
Okay, on that point, why is doing your homework on comparable property sales so important in 2022?
Absolutely. So I think some people as well, they can make the mistake where they think, okay, well, a 4-bedroom home sold around the corner for 2 million, so my one must be worth, or this one must be worth 2 million as well. But sometimes you've got to get into the nitty gritty and find out why that property sold for 2 million, where then maybe the property you're looking at, for whatever reason, because of it could be the land size, but it could be like a slightly sloping block. Maybe it's not as easy to build on this particular block compared to the one around the corner. The quality of the renovation that goes a lot into it as well. Is it with a north to south or a south to north aspect? Some people prefer it north at the rear, some people prefer north at the front. So, and the sort of buyer demographics in that area as well. Who's buying that particular property? Are they first-home buyers? Are they upsizers? Are they downsizers? And Rob, it's sometimes you ask the question, is this the sort of property that's suited to a downsize? And we hate going up against downsizers that are selling at 3 million and buying at 2 million. It's like win at all costs. So you definitely want to be finding out who your competition is in that sense, but really making sure you're comparing apples to apples in the direct comparison to the property and in that market as well. Again, trying to compare what was happening 6 months ago, you need to be comparing what was happening in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Really good points. That's really good. Why is it so important to build professional relationships with the selling agents in the areas you're looking to purchase?
Yeah, good question. And as buyers agents, a lot of the time we've already got a relationship with that agent or somebody within the agency. But it happened to me recently. I bought for a client on the upper North Shore, and the agent that was doing a lot of the sales for that particular type of property, I hadn't dealt with them before. So I started building up, a good rapport with that particular agent, a number of phone calls. picking his brain. He was receptive to the conversation. I as well explained who I was, explained who my client was, so that that particular agent knew that we were there to do a deal, knew that if he had a property, we got to this point after a couple of weeks, knew that he had a property that we were interested in. We weren't going to stuff around, because sometimes, you know, a buyer can maybe not be willing to build up that rapport. And let's face it, you're buying a property off a real estate agent. So if you're not building up a relationship with that real estate agent, it then can be very hard for that real estate agent as well, maybe not take you serious if you're not being serious with them. And now, the more serious you are with them, the more open you're going to be. Obviously, you've got to keep a few cards close to your chest. Then when it gets to the negotiation process, it can be that they're going to treat you as the only one in the picture and going to give you, well, they're still going to do the right thing by their vendor because that's what they're employed to do, but you're going to get the leg up to try to get that property. So that's why building these professional relationships, it's just so important.
Yeah, so I'll go a little bit deeper on that. So get them out and go for a beer or a glass of wine.
You can do that as well, right? Beer, glass of wine, coffee, exactly.
That'll really
right,
open them up.
Yeah, exactly right. That will. Very relaxing.
No, look, it's so true, mate. I've found that over the, you know, I've been in real estate almost 3 decades, so 30 years. Definitely a buyer's agent for 2 decades. And I found that, you know, relationships are so important with agents, and the fact that they will actually tell us more. They'll tell us more than they will the public, because they see us all the time. You know, we're working with qualified buyers, as you said. We've been there in the bad times when the market's flat, and we're there in the good times. So they just tend to look after us.
And also on that as well, how many times have we heard from the agent, oh, no, don't put an offer in, no, it's got to go to auction, things like that. Now, if you don't have a good professional relationship and a good rapport with that agent, when you say, well, look, I know what you're saying to me, John, but this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it by said date. I'm going to blow up your auction campaign, but I'm going to give you what is, we deem to be fair, a good figure on reasonable figure, market value on this property to try and secure it. Now, if you're offering too low, you're not going to have any chance. But if you go in and be serious and submit the offer on the contract, and it's a serious offer and it's at what's deemed to be fair and reasonable market value, you're going to be taken seriously.
Yeah, they're really good points. And digging a little bit deeper with that too, like getting to know the agent in those areas. And let's face it, there's only really 20% of agents that are doing the business in the area that you're looking at buying. And if you build that relationship with them, where you're going out for a beer or coffee or wine, whatever, you know, they're going to invest that time into you, right? So they're going to put a dollar figure to that. Well, I like him. You know, obviously I want to help them out. I've put so much time to them. They're going to be more, you know, susceptible to helping you get a deal over the line. They're going to be more helpful in terms of, hey, I've just listed a property. I haven't advertised it yet. You're going to be the first to know about it. So you're going to know about these off markets as well. So it's a whole bunch of things. But look, you've got to be sincere about it, right? You've got to like the person. You can't be going and having a coffee with the guy if you don't, or the lady, if you don't like them. Like, you need to be genuine, because that comes across, being authentic. And yes, I agree with you, mate. It really helps in the long run. And that's how we've done so well. With a lot of our clients, we've bought so many off-market properties through these relationships. We've bought, you know, I believe, better priced properties as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
How do you balance? Okay, it's a fine line, right? You don't want to be like your, hey, best mate with the agent. So how do you balance that relationship to get the best result for your clients, keeping in mind that the agent is employed by the seller, and his job technically too is to get the best terms and the highest price for the seller?
Yeah, exactly right. I think it all comes down to being professional, I believe, because you are dealing with professionals, and, you know, 9 out of 10 agents are professionals. They are out there doing the right thing, and they are being employed by the vendor to get the best possible price, which is, as a buyer, sometimes a buyer will think, the agent's done this and somebody else has beaten me to. Well, that's because the agent's employed by the vendor to make sure that happens. Now, again, your question, how do you balance that? By always doing what you're saying you're going to do. If you're saying you're going to put an offer in, or saying you're going to get the contract checked, or saying you're going to do this by a said date, make sure you actually do that. If you then decide you're not going to do something, or like tell the agents, well, listen, I wanted to try to get you an offer today by 4 o'clock. For this reason here, I can't do it. We're still interested. I'm going to have it to you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So they know that you are doing the best possible thing. And again, you know, you're working, and make sure that agent as well knows that you're working for the buyer. So getting back to the agent saying, oh, listen, this property is going to auction, don't give me any offers. You know, you need to let them know, well, listen, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Agent, Mrs. Agent, but obviously, you know, you've got your job to do, I've got my job to do. We want to buy the property. I'm being transparent with you on that. This is what I'm in the middle of doing at the moment. I'm going to come with you an offer tomorrow. I know you told me not to, but I'm doing my job for my buyer. You do your job for your vendor, you know. But we're at the same token, we're still keeping a healthy, friendly, professional relationship, working towards that goal.
Awesome, fantastic. Adrian, thank you so much today. It was really helpful with your advice and tips there. Obviously, your phone number's there where your name is, so people can contact you. We'll also have your email in the section below as well, or in the profile of this actual video. Buyers, we've got a giveaway for you today. We are giving away a free market appraisal, so a market analysis of a property that you might be interested in buying. So if you've got something that's going to auction and you're not sure of the value, make sure you contact Adrian. We'll send that to you via email on what we think it's worth to give you a better shot of securing that home, maybe a little bit of advice as well. But that's our giveaway for today, so make sure you send us a personal message or direct message and we'll get that over to you. Thanks a lot, Adrian.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me. I'll see you in the trenches very soon, mate.
See you next week.
Yeah, we will.
Talk to you next week.
We will. Okay. All the best. Thanks, mate. Good luck, everybody.